So today in Unit 3, Lesson 2, we're going to be talking about the skeletal system. More specifically, we're going to be talking about the axial bones. So let's think about what we have already learned about our human body. We have learned that there are 7 systems of the human body. Those are the skeletal system, the muscular system, the circulatory, the respiratory, the nervous, the excretory, and the digestive systems. If you did core knowledge in first grade, you learned about 3 of those, and now we are learning about the rest. So we have learned that there are 7. Does anyone remember what the skeletal system is made of? So the skeletal system is actually made of your bones, or the skeleton. And why is the skeletal system so important to the human body? Remember that the skeletal system supports the human body and it protects the important organs that are in the human body. We talked a little bit about this when we were learning about the animal kingdom. Remember, if we did not have a skeleton, we would just be a big pile of blubber on the floor. And what are the building blocks of life? Does anyone remember what the building blocks of life were called? Okay. The main building blocks of life were cells. And cells form together to form tissue. And tissues come together to form organs. So organs are large groups of very special tissue. And each organ has its own specific job. And it is made up of very specific cells that have specific jobs. So blood cells cannot do the same thing as nerve cells. Nerve cells would be found within the nervous system, whereas blood cells, remember, would be found in places like the circulatory system. Okay, so now let's look at our 7 systems and see if we can remember what those 7 systems are. Remember, we have the skeletal again, the muscular, the nervous, the digestive, the excretory, circulatory, and respiratory. I think I said this might have been right. This was digestive. Sorry if I said that backwards. So when we were talking about the animal kingdom, we learned one way that all animals were classified was whether or not they had a backbone or no backbone. Can you remember what we called animals with a backbone? Okay, so remember those were called vertebrates, and animals without a backbone were called invertebrates. So humans and other mammals, are we vertebrates or are we invertebrates? I hope you said we're vertebrates, because if you reach to your back, you can feel you do have a spine, you have a backbone, you have an internal skeleton that gives your body shape, so we are considered vertebrates. And then we have an exoskeleton. We don't have an exoskeleton, but some animals have an exoskeleton. An exoskeleton is a hard protective covering that's found on the outside of an organism's body. Most of the time when we're talking about exoskeletons, we're talking about insects. So we do not have an exoskeleton. Our skeleton is on the inside of our body. So here is what it is essential or very important. The word essential means important for you to know. So today you're going to hear a very special term that relates to the skeletal system, and it's called axial. And if you think about when we have talked about Earth, we've talked that Earth has an axis. And then an axis is an imaginary straight line that goes through the center of an object. And in the case of Earth, it goes to the center of Earth, and it can divide Earth into two parts equally. And so if I look at the word axial, I can see a form of the word axis in there. And so axial bones are the bones in the human body that are located up and down the middle of the body. So if you will feel on your back and your side and your your head, you can sort of feel like around the center of your body, the bones that make up your axial skeletal system. So, here is our purpose for listening. We're going to listen carefully so that we can learn more about the axial bones within the skeletal system. And I want you to think. Let's predict. Remember, predict means to make an educated guess. I want you to predict how many bones are in the human body. Then I want you to listen carefully to see if your predictions are correct. Hi, everybody. Ricardo here. I've got a new riddle for you. We are a column of bones stacked on top of one another. Collectively, we make up your backbone. We begin with the letter V. What are we? Today, we're going to talk about the system that gives your body its structure, allowing it to stand on its own. If you've ever seen a building being built, you know that it has a framework that gives the building its shape and keeps it from toppling over. Your body has a similar structure. Who knows what keeps your body from collapsing? That's right, your skeleton. Your skeleton is made up of bones. Bones can support a lot of weight, but they didn't start out that way. Before you were born, your skeleton began as cartilage, a firm, rubbery tissue like the tough gristle on a piece of meat. Touch the top of your ear. What you feel is cartilage. The top of your ear will always be cartilage, but much of the cartilage in your original skeleton hardened and turned to bone. By the time you were born, you had about 300 bones in your body. An adult has about 206. So where did all the extra bones go? Do bones just disappear? No, they grow and change over time. Many of them join together, like those at the end of your spine, called your tailbone, or the bones in your skull. Have you ever heard the saying, hard as a rock? Rocks are hard due to the minerals stored inside them. The outside part of your bones become hard by storing minerals too. Minerals enter your body in the food you eat and the vitamins you may take. Calcium, contained in dark, leafy greens, broccoli, and dairy products, such as milk, is one of the important minerals that makes your bones as hard and strong as rocks on the outside. Calcium is also needed to help your blood clot or thicken when you accidentally cut yourself. Without it, your blood would be too thin for you to maintain good health. At least until you reach your full height, your bones will continue to grow with you. It's hard to imagine rock-hard bones growing, isn't it? They cannot stretch or bend, so how do bones grow? Well, bones are made up of living tissue. New bone tissue is being made all the time, working to replace worn-out cells and making it possible to heal broken bones. Before you were born, your bones were solid, but many of them have become hollow over time, making them very light, yet still very strong. How? This is how bones differ from rocks. Rocks are solid all the way through, but bones are porous, meaning they have many tiny holes through which liquid passes. So if you look here, you can see the little bitty tiny holes found within a bone. Marrow, a jelly-like tissue, fills the cavities of your porous bones. Bone marrow is your body's blood cell factory. It produces blood cells that help to fight infection and carry oxygen throughout your body. Remember that the circulatory system carries the blood your heart pumps throughout your body. So the skeletal system and the circulatory system are interconnected. Remember what that word meant from yesterday? Interconnected. Bones come in many shapes and sizes. Some are long and rod-like with knobby ends. Some are short and look like cubes, whereas others are flat. And some have their own unique shapes. Even though there are many different kinds and sizes of bones, all human skeletons look pretty much the same. Your skeletal bones are designed in specific ways to support and protect every part of your body. There are 3 groups of bones that form your axial skeleton. The spine. So here I'm pointing, there's your spine. The skull. And the ribs. The bones that support the center of your body are called axial bones. It is also the job of the axial bones to protect the most important organs in your body. You've already learned that taxonomists classify animals in 2 groups, vertebrates and invertebrates. Who can remember which group humans are classified in? That's right, we are vertebrates. Vertebrates are animals with a backbone. Your backbone or spine is actually more than one bone. It is a column of bones that are stacked on top of one another. If you bend forward and feel along the middle of your back, you will remember, or you can feel those little bumps. As we learned in earlier domains, these are your vertebrae, a series of bones fitted one on top of another to form the spinal column, or the backbone. Cartilage, so if I look here, I'm pointing to it, cartilage separates each vertebrate, filling the spaces and cushioning them so that each vertebrate is not right on top of each other rubbing. That would not be good. Each vertebrate also has a hole in it, and this allows our spinal cord, which is a very important pathway of nerves, to pass through it. So if you look at the picture here, we can see our spinal cord. Your spinal cord column protects that spinal cord. And in addition to providing the main support for your skeleton, your spine is only one part of your axial skeleton. If you sit up as straight and tall as you can, and you look at your neighbor, the side profile, does it look straight? Probably not, because your spine is curved, looking more like a letter S than the letter I. Can you think of any reason why it might be like this? Why might it be better to have a slight curve in your back rather than being completely straight? Well, if your back were completely straight, like a board, you wouldn't be able to bend very easily. So the shape of your spine allows you much more flexibility. We've already heard about the fabulous tailbone at the lower end of your spine. So I'm going to back up. You can't really see. This tailbone is hidden back here. Okay. So we've already heard about the fabulous tailbone at the end of your spine. So at the other end, if you got your tailbone at one end, the other end follows up to your head. So feel how hard your head is. Who knows the name of the protective groups of bone hidden inside your head? That's right, that's your skull. Skull bones sit on top of your backbone, becoming the second part of the axial skeleton. That group of bones that support the center of your body. Remember, your axial bones support the center of your body. Your skull is comprised of a group of bones, 29 in all, that are all locked together. So you can see all these little bones, they're locked together. And they protect your brain and some of your body's sensory organs. The top part of your skull is actually shaped like a bowl, which surrounds the brain. The brain is, and this part is called the cranium. There are 8 thin, curved bones that are tightly interlocked to form this smooth cranial helmet beneath your forehead and scalp. If you look at the top or you feel the top of your head, that's your cranium. When you were born, these 8 bones still had gaps in them, allowing your brain to grow. Because these gaps don't close completely for about 2 years, babies have what are called a soft spot on their head. And they need to be very careful when handling babies because their skull bones or cranial bones have not hardened together or fused together. The rest of your skull bones are facial bones or bones in your face. If you put your hands over your eyes and touch your closed eyelids very gently and you push towards your eyebrow, the round opening in your skull is called the eye sockets. So if I look here, these are the eye sockets. These sockets are deep enough to protect your delicate eyes. Another hole in your skull is just the right size for your nose. Though it is sometimes closed or covered up with teeth, what is the biggest opening in your face? Which of course would be your mouth. Which bone moved when you open your mouth? Well, that's your jawbone. Your lower jawbone is hinged so that it can move up and down and side to side, which is pretty amazing. Does anyone remember the 3 groups of bones that form the axial skeleton down the center of your body? The spine is one, the skull is another, and the third group of axial bones is also connected to your spine. So if you reach behind you again and feel the bones that stretch across your back, wrapping around to the front of your body, what are these called? Absolutely, these are your ribs. Ribs are curved bones that form a protective cage called the rib cage around your heart and lungs. Ribs come in pairs. Each rib is attached to a vertebra in the middle of your back and to the sternum or breastbone in the middle of your chest. If you feel your chest, can you count the number of ribs in your rib cage? How many did you count? You have 24 ribs, or 12 pair, 12 on each side. I can't resist sharing a joke with you right about now because it fits in so well with what you are learning. What did the rib cage say to the heart? Give up. Got you covered. Your skull and ribs both protect vital organs that you cannot live without. However, your ribs are designed very differently from your skull. Whereas your skull is made of solid, interconnected bones without spaces between, there are spaces between each of your ribs. Can you guess why it wouldn't work for the rib cage to be one big solid bone? Take a deep breath, as deep as you can. Now let the air out. What happened to your chest? Do it again, and notice how your chest goes in and out with each breath you take. Solid bone around your chest would prevent the diaphragm and lungs from expanding properly with the air you breathe. The shape of your spine, combined with the spaces in between each pair of ribs, helps the body to be flexible. So I'll be back tomorrow to talk more about the skeleton. Today you learned about the axial bones, and tomorrow you'll hear a term that relates to another part of your skeleton, and to your arms, and to your legs. I'm looking so forward to the next time we meet. I'll be sure to have some new riddles. Okay, so let's look at our word work. Today's word is structure. In the read aloud, you heard Ricardo say, today we're going to talk about the system that gives your body structure, allowing it to stand on its own. So if you think about the word structure, and you say the word quietly to yourself, structure. A structure is a form or shape or something that is made up of a number of parts arranged together. Remember that a house being built in an area where earthquakes are common should have a structure that would resist the force of an earthquake. Same thing if you were to build a house in the coast of Florida. Remember, there was just a hurricane recently, and hurricanes are very damaging to the structures along the coast. And so if you were going to build a house in an area that was common to have hurricanes, you would want to make sure that you built it out of a structure that could withstand hurricanes. Same thing with tornadoes. If tornadoes were very common in an area, you would want to make sure that your house was built out of a structure that could withstand the tornadoes. So, what are some things that could not exist without a strong structure? Think about that. And so, what part of speech did we say that the word structure was? Or can you think about what the word structure is? It a person? Is it a place? Is it a thing? Does it describe? Is it something we can do? Can I do structure? Okay. So I hope you said that structure was a noun, because it is a thing. All right, so tomorrow, remember that we are going to be learning about more of the skeletal system. See you then.